have sound now. It's just
Okay.
not gonna. Where I'm gonna make this a little bit closer then, so that the sound will be okay.
All right.
Okay, so this is my friend Larry Pahl. Just to start over again. Sound. We got sound. Hi, Angie. I hope you're feeling better, Angie. I heard you got in a car wreck. That's terrible. This is my friend Larry Pahl. I've been out here for a couple days with him. He's a director of the
American Institute for Pyramid Research.
American Institute for Pyramid Research. He's been coming out here and studying these old buildings behind me for not quite as long as they've been here, but for a long time.
That's right.
And it's absolutely fascinating the things that he has found here. And so I wanted to take a minute and just let him share some of that with you. So let's start with the metrology. Metrology meaning the study of measurements, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So let's start with some of the interesting things you found.
So one thing in studying metrology and its use here on the Giza Plateau, and you're not going to believe this, it's okay, but you got to start somewhere, okay? The cubit, the meter, and the foot are aboriginal and connected. You thought that the meter was invented by the French at the time of the French Enlightenment. You thought the British inch came from some kings in England, and you thought the cubit was some pharaoh. I am telling you right now, and this is a fact, that the cubit, the meter, and the foot are aboriginal. They go back to Enoch. They go back to God's revelations to Enoch and Noah. You know, God gave revelations to Noah about the ark in the cubit, but the cubit, the meter, and the foot are connected, and I found many examples of their connection here in Giza. Now, it wasn't metrologists are probably a branch of science, but not in the mainstream, because it's, metrology is not, recognized the way sociology, anthropology, physics, economics are. But it was a major discovery among the metrologists when they found that all the world systems of measurement are connected. That's right, the Chinese, the Sumerian, the British.
Do you have sound, everybody? Do you have sound?
And so, one example is if you take a 1 meter pendulum, so take a pendulum that's 1 meter long and you swing it at 30 degrees, okay? It will swing out exactly 1 royal cubit. So there you've got an aboriginal connection between a meter and a royal cubit, and that takes exactly 1 second.
So you got time, you got space, you got measurement.
And the connected of the measuring systems. So these are the kind of things I got into through studying the Great Pyramid. Now, Graham Hancock's probably the father of the alternatives who studied the pyramid, not from a Christian point of view, from an esoteric New Age point of view. Graham Hancock says he became a better mathematician by studying the Great Pyramid because there's so much there. I do, and that's my witness too. I think that Enoch was a polymath. I think he walked with God, and he's the one that put the inch here. He was the father of metrology. And I think the god Thoth, the Egyptian god Thoth, the Roman god Mercury, the Greek god Hermes are all folklore myths that came from Enoch. What those gods personify, Hermes, Thoth, is what Enoch really was. He was a highly gifted man, connected with God, and loved to study and measure things. And I think he and Adam named a lot of the constellations. They named, animals, and they did measurements. And he's the father of writing, we're told by history. He's also, a student of prophecy because Enoch is quoted by Jude in the New Testament prophesying the second coming of Christ.
So you're probably starting to feel like I've been feeling for the last several days, just to like, whoa, what was all that?
Yeah,
but I'm just telling you that the more time we spend here, the more time we spend with Larry, the more I am absolutely convinced that God has revealed himself in the things that we see right behind us. God's revealed himself in everything, but I mean,
and just so you don't think Chuck is crazy in saying that, Chuck's going off the deep end. I'm not a maverick. He's following a maverick that just is leading Chuck astray. I'm in a string of Christian interpreters. There's been hundreds of year string of people who have interpreted the Great Pyramid from a Christian point of view. C. Piazzi Smith, who was the Astronomer Royal for Scotland, entrusted by his nation to be the chief astronomer. He had many patents. He was a decorated scientist. He came to believe that the Great Pyramid was a revelation of God, and he wrote a thick book called Our Inheritance, our as people, as human beings, the things we've inherited from the Great Pyramid that God gave to Enoch and came to us. Truths about the universe that God put in that pyramid through men.
I mean, because there's stuff that you find in this pyramid that wasn't even common knowledge back then, like, where certain stars were. I mean, you can do a lot better explaining that than I am. But things that, like, wait a minute, they shouldn't have even known that, but yet this shaft points right at the star, or that, I mean, like, explain some of that.
Well, Robert Pahl and Graham Hancock wrote a book that sold millions about the Orion correlation theory. They said the Egyptians believed as above, so below. Like the Lord's Prayer, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. There's a connection between heaven and earth, and the ancient Egyptians talked about that. So what they said is that the constellation Orion, and I believe that Adam and Enoch named the constellations, and the gospel story is in there. And there's books that have been written about that. Joseph Seiss wrote a book about the gospel in the stars. Bullinger wrote a book called The Witness of the Stars. Christian writers who took all the myriad of constellations. God speaks about the zodiac to Job when he speaks to him in Job 38 and 39. So God's saying, I made the sway of the constellations. God's saying, I'm the author, and it uses the word that's really translated zodiac. So I understand some Christians get really scared about that, and that's fine, but I'm telling you, God, the very first chapter of the Bible says God made the sun and the moon, the heavenly bodies, for signs. The first purpose is signs, prophecy, symbols, signs, and then for days and years, months. So for agriculture, for timekeeping, yes, but the first purpose is for signs. So if you take the stars of the constellation Orion and bring them down to Egyptian soil, the three belt stars of Orion, which a lot of people can recognize in the night sky, it's a very, very singular constellation, the belt of Orion. It's Mintaka, Al-Nitak, and Al-Nilam are the three stars. And so Pahl and Hancock said that Al-Nitak corresponds with the Great Pyramid. And then, the Khafre Pyramid and the Menkaure Pyramid are associated with the other two stars. So the three big pyramids here correspond to the three stars in Orion's belt. Well, Al-Nitak, did
you guys get that? The three pyramids here are lined up exactly like the three stars in Orion's belt.
Orion's belt, which is a very visible constellation. So the Great Pyramid goes with Al-Nitak. I showed Chuck today, we were up in the King's Chamber, and there's a shaft that goes through this, comes out of the south part of the King's Chamber, and that shaft in 2500 BC, when this pyramid was built, astronomers now say points to Al-Nitak. So a shaft in the Great Pyramid points to Al-Nitak. So when
points to the star that it corresponds with.
Points to the star in Orion's belt that it corresponds with.
Yeah, I mean, mind-boggling. So that's just one tiny little piece of what we've been learning this week. And we've been to a bunch of different pyramids. Yeah. I always thought that the pyramids in Egypt were these three pyramids right behind us. But there's like 100 pyramids. Yeah. There's probably pyramids they haven't even found yet out there.
Probably ones they haven't found. There's about 100, most of them in a dilapidated state, but of the 100, probably 20 of them are visited pretty often. I took Chuck to about 10 of them. And
some of them, we were the only ones there.
Yeah.
So now I just wanted to talk real quick about the first pyramid that we visited, the Step Pyramid, and about Imhotep, because there's an incredible biblical story about Imhotep and the Step Pyramid. Talk about that.
Sure. Well, there's if you believe the Bible, Joseph was highly decorated in Egypt. He was worshipped by all the people.
Not Jesus' father Joseph. This is Joseph, the coat of many colors,
the patriarch, the son of Jacob. And so the Bible says he was second only to the Pharaoh, and he was worshipped by all the people. Well, Imhotep has the same reputation in Egypt. He wasn't the Pharaoh. How many of you know the Secretary of State for Calvin Coolidge? In other words, you don't usually know, other than the president, you don't know. Imhotep is famous, the way that Joseph would have been. And there's a number of associations between Imhotep and Joseph, seeming like Imhotep is Joseph.
Like he came from a family with 12.
Yeah, they both had 12 kids. They were both one of 12 children. It's just as one example. So Imhotep is known as the architect of Zoser's pyramid. It was the first pyramid built on the earth. It's called the Step Pyramid. You've probably seen pictures of it. It was the first pyramid built in the world, and it was the largest building on the earth when it was built. So picture this singular building that started pyramid building in all the world. Joseph is the architect. And what was a very formative thing in his father's life? Jacob had this dream of angels ascending and descending from heaven that changed his life. His name was changed from Jacob to Israel, this formative thing, and he told his children about this dream. So here's Joseph, when he finally gets power in Egypt, and he's the architect, he builds the first pyramid, which is a step pyramid. It's a stairway to heaven.
That's exactly what it looks like.
The stairway to heaven. So his father's dream, God gives one man a dream. His son makes a pyramid based on it. His son gains power in Egypt, and now that was the first pyramid. There wouldn't probably be other pyramids in the world if Joseph wouldn't have started that experimental building, this stairway to heaven. And now you see the culmination of pyramid building really in the world behind us here with these giants.
Mind-boggling. Now, not only that, but when Joseph became the head of Potiphar's house, this Potiphar was one
of the stewards for one of the administrators for the Pharaoh.
Okay, so he wasn't the Pharaoh himself; he was an administrator for the Pharaoh. But so Joseph was very high up in the Egyptian hierarchy at that time, and he got that way by interpreting a dream. And the dream that the Pharaoh had something to do with a famine, right?
That's right. So he was. If you remember, there's the story about the butler and the baker, and so he interpreted dreams for them, and so when one of the baker was killed, the butler was exalted, and that's exactly what Joseph told them with their dreams. So Joseph said to the butler, since he was the one promoted, as Joseph interpreted his dream correctly, he said, "Remember me when you go up there. Now that you're going to get out of prison, remember me." Well, he forgot all about him. The Bible says that the butler forgot him, but then one day, the king needed a dream interpreter, and the butler goes, "Oh, hey, there's a guy down in the prison who interprets dreams for everybody. If you call him up, I know he could interpret your dreams." So now he remembers. Joseph's called up. He explains the Pharaoh's dream. He says there's going to be 7 years of famine, then 7 years of plenty.
Or other way around. 7 years of plenty, and then 7 years of famine.
If he said that, he would have been shot.
Yeah, right. It would have been bad.
So the Pharaoh, makes him the administrator to prepare for that. So what I told Chuck, and just thinking about this, is there's no way if somebody went to President Biden, President Trump, and said, "Hey, I know that Canada's going to attack us," they're going to say, "Get out of here, kid." Why would they listen to a prisoner interpret a dream? Because he was running the prison. Not only did he run Potiphar's house and he gained skills as a manager, he was obviously a highly skilled administrator. He told them, put the bathroom over there, have people make the food over here, have the dormitories be over there. His hand of administration was recognized, so when he was called up, they said, "Hey, this is the guy. He's really helped us run the prison. He's really good." And so when the Pharaoh hears all this and he hears his dream regularly interpreted, he said, "This is obviously the man to prepare for the 7 years of famine that are coming." And so listen to this. So think about it. He got the wealth of the world. First, he took the wealth of Egypt. They 1/5, the people were hungry. They had to give the wealth. And now other nations around him had to come and get this grain. And so Egypt took in the wealth of the world. How do you think the Great Pyramid was built?
Yeah, now think about this.
The Great Pyramid was built?
We go out to that pyramid, Zoser's pyramid, the step pyramid, and all around this pyramid, there are these huge grain silos dug into the earth, very, very deep. They found, 11 of them so far or something, but there may be more. And they would have held enough grain to feed a ton of people, right? I don't know how many people were on the earth back then, but it would have fed a lot of people with all that grain. And they were built in such a way, very, very smart, where the first grain that went in was the first grain that came out, because they took grain from the bottom, not from the top. They were stored in such a way that they were stored beneath the ground, so it was kept cool. It was probably, protected some from the weather and from the elements. It's very, very smart. And then the way that the compound or the complex was built around that pyramid, it's almost like you said, a Home Depot, where they had one way in, where they had to kind of file in, and they had to go. Oh, good. I'm glad there are many supporters in Japan. Thank you. They had to file into this building, and there were places for tables to be set up, probably by language or whatever, culture, whatever. And okay, so if I speak Midian, I go over here, and you pay your money, you get your ticket, and then they went out, filed outside, and then there's a place to bring your camels down. And yes, there are pictures of those grain silos on my last podcast. If you go look at the podcast before this one, I did a podcast about it, and I showed video of these things.
Yeah, but the Egyptologists won't call them grain silos. Okay, they call them tombs for the Pharaoh, but trust me, they're not tombs. They stored grain.
Right.
Some grain was found in them when they were first discovered. So,
and it makes total sense. When you look at it, you go, oh, absolutely. I can see where they parked their camels and loaded their grain. I can see how they filed through. I mean, everything makes total sense. And that's the thing that we're finding here, is that there are so many mysteries about Egypt. Even here, 4,000 years later,
right.
you're still discovering things today. Even you found things that like,
right.
wow, this is something new. This is something that hasn't been seen before. And this site behind us is so massive. There are just thousands of tombs back there. You can hear the call to prayer in the background there.
We're in a Muslim country.
Yeah, so all of the mosques in Cairo sort of compete with each other to see who can Allah, louder, and you hear it. It's actually kind of eerie. I'm just going to play this for a second. That all over the place. So anyway, to wrap this up, what do you think is the biggest lesson that you have learned in your decades of doing this research on the pyramids?
Well, it's strengthened my faith in God, because the discovery I do here is probably like the way that Enoch got the revelations that he helped get into the Great Pyramid. That's a story that takes a little time to develop, but God working with man is this cybernetic of God and man is a mysterious thing. We all have to fight through our battle of faith. How do we hear the voice of God? So the way God has led me, because I've dedicated my professional life here to searching out these mysteries and then trying to reach esoteric people, to reach the lost, if you want to say, with the light of the gospel, because I really think that's part of what's here. But to find my way all the time, because who else is doing this? Who else do you know that has this ministry? And so I have to, I'm kind of a pioneer or something, I've got to feel my way. And so it's taught me the cybernetic of how does God lead, so you're finding things out about the past, but you're trying to interpret them to the present for a new age audience. And I've learned to really more than ever trust the Good Shepherd, trust the guidance of God. And people that follow my channel, which is really evangelistic, though they don't know it. I'm just I tell parables and things, try to interest them. But it's really an attempt to try and get them interested, and then find a ways when I talk one-on-one with them, which I often get a chance to do, about the gospel, about the wonderful things that are here.
The book of Acts says that we were all born in the exact time and place where we are most likely to find God, though he's not far from any one of us. God is easy to find if I'm willing to go looking. That's what I think this says back here. These things were built 1,000 years before the Bible was even written. Right. And yet you can, if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to look into the details of these buildings behind us, God is apparent in those buildings, just like God is apparent in the stars in the sky, in the nature all around us. God is apparent. He is easy to find if you're willing to look for him. And this is not our normal podcast, but we're in such an amazing place, and to be able to sit and watch the sunset from our balcony of our hotel here is really a privilege, and I wanted to share that privilege with our viewers.
I've got a tour in October, so if you want to, if you want to get here with me,
I highly recommend it. How do people find you if they want to find you?
If you go to YouTube, just the Great Pyramid AIP, or just Great Pyramid, but there's too many people would just say, so AIP is the initials for my institute. So if you put in Great Pyramid AIP as one word, you'll find me on YouTube. Instagram, I'm Sage Silent, at Sage Silent, and or greatpyramid.info or greatpyramid.org or greatpyramid.us. I was an early adopter. I got into the internet
You got
when I was
them all.
young. I didn't buy them from someone. I got them initially, and I've kept them for decades.
And he's Larry Pahl, Pahl is how you spell his last name.
Right.
And I highly, he's got a bunch of books out there. You can go read a lot about his discoveries. Fascinating stuff. And we are leaving tomorrow morning to go to Saudi Arabia to do some more study on another Bible story about Mount Sinai. So stay tuned. You're going to have a lot more really interesting stuff coming up in the next few days.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, folks. Take care. I'm going to just turn the camera around for a minute. I'm not going to turn it off. I'm just going to turn it around and let you enjoy this view right here. Look at that. So what's that one over there called? The little one?
Menkara.
That's Menkara.
Menkara,
Khafre,
and Khufu.
and Khufu. And the oldest of those three is this one?
The Great Pyramid.
The Great Pyramid. This is the Great
That was
Pyramid.
the first one built.
Yeah.
And then his son, Khafre, was the second built. And then his grandson was the third one, Menkara.
And this was built by his son, and this built by his grandson.
Yes.
Wow.
So there's a family.
Somebody asked about which hotel we're at. It's called the Mamluk Hotel. It's a fairly new hotel. And we've been all around the pyramids this week. And I really believe that this hotel has the best view of any hotel of the pyramids. We sit here every day and have our meals with this view. It's absolutely unbelievable. There's a light show at night. They light the pyramids up in all different colors that make those things look like jewels out there in the sand. You can see the Sphinx right down there. That's the Sphinx. I can't really zoom in on it, I don't think, but yeah, I can. There it is. Look at that. Check it out. So we got to walk around down there today and walk right up to those things. You don't, it just is mind-boggling until when you get up there at the base of those pyramids and see how truly gigantic those things are. The stones that were put in place to build those things. We also got to go inside the Great Pyramid today, and while it was a fascinating thing to do, I almost can't recommend it because the guards in there are absolutely militant about you can't video, you can't record anything, you can't sing a song, you can't talk to your friends, you can't bring a recording device, you can't, I mean, there's no. And I get it, they get a lot of weirdos in there, but it was really kind of, I don't know, disheartening to try to go in there. We also got to ride camels all around the pyramids. And then down, actually one of the most interesting things right down over here are a whole bunch of tombs that have, I mean, there's caves all in the, oh yeah, isn't it beautiful? It's incredible. There's all these caves down there, and then there's a bunch more back behind the Great Pyramid as well. Absolutely fascinating. You know, I always thought that the Israelites were the ones who built the pyramids, but actually the pyramids were already here long before the Israelites were brought here as slaves. And the pyramids were not built with slave labor. They were built by skilled artisans who were well-fed and well-paid. And actually, this was all water down in here. They flooded all this, and they floated those stones up as close as they could to where the pyramids are. The pyramids are built on a limestone quarry, so a lot of the stones, I'm told, came out of the quarry right there where the pyramids were built. But for the granite and basalt and other stones that they used, they actually floated them in, sometimes from like 500 miles away, floating them up the Nile or down the Nile. Ever listen to Graham Hancock? You know Graham Hancock?
Yeah. He's the godfather of the alternative.
Oh, yeah. Graham Hancock is the godfather of the alternative movement. Yeah, that's right. You have to get a special permit to record anything inside, and it's all just about money. They want to get as much money. I mean, you have to literally pay to urinate up there. I mean, you got to pay for everything out there, and you do get hassled by a lot of, I call them sharks, you know, the people who try to sell you everything they can, or give you a ride, or just give you advice or anything. But I guess it's not as bad as it used to be. They've cracked down on those guys quite a bit. So, all right, I'm going to sign off. So thanks for watching the sunset with me. Japanese archaeology team also made a great contribution. Great. I appreciate all you viewers from Japan. You guys rock. Thanks for watching the Hot Zone.